Hi there. Hi, it's Amber Hawley from My Biz Bestie and Fremont Counseling Services. I thought I would come on live tonight and maybe offer a little bit of support in how to take care of yourself in all of this election anxiety and stress. We've been pretty busy with clients telling us, how stressed out they are and everything that's kind of going on this week. If you're on social media at all, I'm sure you've seen it. Maybe you're feeling it. Um, it's been a pretty rough year stress wise. And now this election has been probably the worst that I'm ever aware of, that I've ever been aware of. And, the one thing that both sides seem to agree on is that they have election stress. So I thought I'd give you a couple of quick tips on how to take care of yourself and what to do if you're experiencing that. So I'm not going to tell you how to feel or how to do it right, but I am going to talk about how to take care of yourself. So the first tip is have a plan to take care of yourself. Sometimes our strategy could be to avoid having to think about it or deal with it until it smacks us in the face. And I know that, this year, especially with all of the stress from COVID and, schooling from home and all the other things going on and all the other worries, this is just compounding everything. So I think it's really important to have a plan. So that could be that, how are you going to use social media? Are you going to avoid social media for tomorrow? Are you going to avoid news? Who are you going to talk to? How are you going to take care of yourself? Like, I think back to even the last election, a lot of people were also feeling this way, maybe not as intensely as this time, but I think it was people were still feeling, a lot of stress and anxiety about the election. And so having a plan of, do you need a little escape? Last year, I know I had to work until late and I got home and my self-care was watching stand-up comedy because it's one of my favorite things to do, sitting there and worrying and stressing about the results or what's going on wasn't going to make a difference that night. I just needed to kind of lower my anxiety. So I watched stand-up and it helped. And it helped me get to sleep. It helped me, just take a breather until the next day. So it could be something like that. It could be having a plan to meet up with somebody. I really think it's so individual how people take care of themselves and, what helps them relieve stress. So you have to think about what that is for you. The second tip is limit social media and all media. So if you are feeling a lot of anxiety, I would recommend really putting a limit on it. Don't be watching all day the news and things coming in and people's opinions on social media. Because frankly, given the amount of people that voted early in this election, I could be wrong, but it feels like it would be unlikely that we will definitively know by tomorrow night who's actually won. Now, I could be wrong about that. Maybe they are totally on top of counting all the ballots and maybe there's going to be a landslide. Who knows? Who can know? But this could go on for a few days. So maybe preparing yourself for that and making sure that you're mediating, how much you're checking in or tuning into that. But we know that watching the news does raise people's anxiety. So it's just one of those things to be mindful of. I know you want to keep informed, but you have to find the balance, especially if you're having, like I said, pretty intense anxiety. The third tip is to keep perspective, because even though we feel so passionate about this, because obviously we're worried about what this will mean for policies and what kind of things will happen in the next 4 years, no matter which side you're on, there's concerns. The reality is, in the grand scheme, it's 4 more years. And even if it's not something you would want and you feel concerned, and justifiably so, there are reasons to be concerned, but it's not going to end our world as we know it. We will get through it. if things are changed, there's always the possibility of them changing back. And we'll go through this process again in 4 years. So it's not that it doesn't matter. It's not that things can't happen, but it's about keeping perspective in the long term. The sun is still going to rise. You're still going to go to work, hopefully. And you're just going to have to get through the day. But sometimes having that perspective helps lower the anxiety, because if we're in a place where we're catastrophizing, like the world is going to end and it's just going to be terrible, and next thing we're living in some utopian society type movie situation, that's not going to help you kind of cope and get through the next few days. And remember that you can still make an impact. You can still fight for the things you care about. Your voice still matters, but we have to keep that perspective to kind of get through what's going to be a rough few days, few weeks, few years for probably half of the population. The last tip I have for you is boundaries. So if you have close friends or family members who are on the opposite end of the spectrum politically, be mindful about when you reach out to them. You might have to limit contact for a few days. You have to do what you have to do to take care of yourself. Probably also limiting even people who may agree with you politically. If if your candidate loses and people are so upset, limit those people who really amp you up and catastrophize themselves, so that you don't get into that place where you're working yourself up. Just be thoughtful about who you're spending your time with, and try to find supportive people to spend your time with. So those are my recommendations. And you might have to have conversations and maybe do it preemptively. If it's your mother or your father or your spouse or your best friend or your sister-in-law, have that conversation about, I need to just have a few days to myself. I don't want to talk about the election. I don't want to talk about the results. I don't want to talk about politics. You need to set the boundaries. So I hope that gives you some ideas, or at least gets you thinking about having a plan for tomorrow and the next few days, and how to take care of yourself and try to manage the stress and the anxiety that inevitably is going to be coming to a lot of us. And, if you're really feeling very distressed, make sure you reach out to your therapist or counselor or whoever it is that you get support from, and, talk to them about what you're experiencing, because you can definitely have a lot of stress from what's going to be happening in the next few days, especially, like I said, given the year that we've had. So there's no shame in reaching out and getting support. That's what us therapists are here for. So I hope you have a good night's sleep tonight, and I hope tomorrow you're able to sleep as well. Thanks.